Fasted cardio or fed cardio? Is starvation mode a thing? What about ladies getting too bulky when lifting weights? In today's episode on the podcast, we're going to be talking about the debates that seem to never die. All right, so we're going to get into some topics that are pretty common for people to argue about, and let's just see if we can basically sum up in a few short minutes a couple of ideas around some of these stubborn topics that seem to just endlessly be debated on X or Reddit, in the comment section, Warzone, everywhere there is to put a comment, all right? So thank you so much for joining me. My name is Adam. I'm a personal trainer, functional nutritionist. I'm a pastor, and I focus on helping people find their health or thrive with their health so they can continue to do what they feel like God has called them to do. So if you enjoy this podcast, if you're watching it on YouTube, please subscribe, give us a like. If you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please give us a share, maybe a review, leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. So thank you so much for joining us again. And I'm always thankful for people who give me feedback on, whether or not they like the podcast or whether it's helping them or not. I typically get positive feedback. So, but if you have topics that you would like to hear about, we'd love to hear about those as well. You can also follow us and follow me on Instagram. It's just at Adam Bro. We also have a great email list that we run through Substack. So if you're on Substack, give us a follow. It's the same at Adam Bro. You can also sign up for free with that in the link in my bio on Instagram. So give us a follow. We'd love for you to join us in this process. We're doing our best to help people find what they need to find in their health so they continue to do what God asked them to do, right? At the end of the day, we want to be faithful stewards of what God's given us and do the thing He's put in our hand to the best of our ability, all right? So let's jump into it, okay? So there's constantly debates around specific topics that are like sacred cows for some reason. And we have this in the faith realm, we've got dispensationalism, we've got tongues are for now or not, miracles, and people just seem to beat dead horses over and over. And no one can either seem to agree to disagree or it seems that people just find their niche or their stronghold and they just sit in it, So let's see if we can get into some of these topics. One of the number one around cardio is just, there's two things you need to understand when people say cardio. You have cardio conditioning, which is like, I am training to be faster at running, or I am training to be able to increase my VO2 max so I can perform better on the field or in my jiu-jitsu class. I'm actually at my jiu-jitsu school now. I was doing some other stuff around here and I thought, you know what? I don't really normally have a place. There's nobody there. I'm here, so let's just do this, okay? So like martial arts, great cardiovascular training. You can do cardio conditioning to get better at those things. When people talk about fasted cardio or fed cardio, what they're talking about is fat loss. That's where it comes in. So people start arguing, well, if I did fasted cardio for years, and many bodybuilders have done that, where they do their cardio first thing in the morning without eating, and they swear that it burns more fat or unlocks stubborn fat, okay? And then you got other people who are like, no, you can eat, it's okay. The studies show that there's no difference. Well, let's just say real quick. So there's a 2023 study by Brad Schoenfeld who, it's a meta-analysis that he put together. Sorry, my nose is running. Brad Schoenfeld is probably one of the most cited researchers in physical training, like the bodybuilding, body recomposition space. And then there's also a 2024 Hackett review that showed literally no difference in 24-hour fat oxidation when calories and protein are matched. So what does that mean? It means that fasted cardio or fed cardio was not the lever that changed fat burning in any way for those who participated in it. If you were eating the same amount of food, so if you, let's say you fasted and you ate 2,000 calories with 150 grams of protein after your cardio session, just maybe throughout the day, you ate 2,000 calories with 150 grams of protein. Everything else was normal for you. And then you got another person who ate breakfast beforehand and still did their cardio, but still ate the same amount of calories, 150 grams of protein. What the studies show is that there's no difference in how much fat was burned, okay? The thing that probably can help with losing weight by using fasted cardio is that, one, you're probably gonna eat less throughout the day, depending on how long you fast. So you're just gonna eat less, therefore you get smaller, okay? Now, you also have, if you do cardio relatively hard, it has an appetite suppressing effect, which can enhance the fasting. So it doesn't mean that when you do fasted cardio, you unlock stubborn fat, or somehow those love handles that would never go away are now going away because of the cardio and you not eating and doing cardio. What really happens is if you just eat less because you fasted, then yes, you'll lose weight, okay? But the debate on whether or not you're gonna burn more fat or be able to tap into fat because you're doing cardio fasted, it just seems that there's no difference there. You're not burning more fat throughout the day. That's what these studies are showing, that there's no total amount of fat burned more by fasting, okay? So the body oxidizes the exact same amount of fat over 24 hours, whether you ate or not during your cardio, as long as your food was the same, okay? So it shows that if your food's the same, you're not gonna burn more, at least not statistically enough to show anything, okay? So you don't need to stress out whether or not you're gonna do cardio fasted or whether or not working out fasted is better or not better. It doesn't matter. You do the one that is easier for you to be consistent, because at the end of the day, consistency is the most important lever you can pull. Not splitting hairs over whether you had protein or carbs before or not, or whether the insulin spike from the carbs is gonna stop your fat burning, blah, blah, blah. You don't need to worry about that, okay? You just need to be consistent, right? So don't stress out about dumb stuff, okay? What's another great one that just won't seem to die, okay? Just won't die, okay? Another one is, does lifting weights make women look bulky? You know what, this is a terrible problem. So many women, particularly grandmothers, are lifting weights like 1 or 2 times a week, and they're becoming gigantic. They're literally so big that they're unstoppable. Their voice changes, and they just become the Hulk. And literally, they are a menace to society because they're just becoming so huge so fast that it's unstoppable. They're literally mutants, okay? Obviously, I'm joking, right? So this is the thing. Lifting weights does not make anyone bulky, okay? How you lift weights, how you eat, if you take performance-enhancing drugs, what your genetics are, those things play a much bigger role, okay? So this is the thing. In a 2023 meta-analysis by Carvalho et al., plus a 2024 Hagstrom review, women would need to literally take testosterone or train as if they were a professional bodybuilder to get bulky, okay? This is most women. Now, some ladies may have more ability to get like more muscular than the average woman. So if like you look at CrossFit girls, you'll see some girls that are like, they look bulky, but it's because they're usually shorter and they have the propensity for that. That's their genetics, okay? And then you have some girls in the CrossFit space who are tall and lean, and they just look like they work out and run, right? So there's no one size fits all. You're not, just because you lifted weights a couple times, you're gonna get bulky. What's actually going to happen when you lift weights as a woman is that you're going to get that toned look that you want, because you cannot build muscle. First of all, you want to what looking toned means is more muscle, less fat, okay? You don't do Pilates to get that long, lean look. No, you have a good diet and you have less fat on your body, that makes you toned, okay? So if you are a lady and you're worried about getting bulky, don't. You would have to take hundreds of dollars worth of steroids to get bulky, or you would have to be a professional with amazing genetics, which the average person does not have, okay? So that is dead. What's actually gonna happen is you're going to build better muscle mass, you're going to build a tighter bum, okay? That flabby arm gonna go down a little bit, okay? You're gonna get stronger, your bone density is gonna go up, everything in your digestion is gonna probably get better because you're gonna start using your proteins, carbs, and fats appropriately, okay? So what's gonna happen is that you're just gonna improve at being you, and you're gonna look better at being you. You're not gonna look like someone else, okay? So if you're 5'3" and 125 pounds, you're not gonna immediately go up to 165 pounds of solid muscle. You might go up to 128 pounds, okay? So just let it go. What's gonna actually happen is it's gonna improve every aspect of your life. That's it. So lift weights. You need it for longevity. You need it for bone density, strength, and overall just performance in life, okay? Your body is built to struggle, so do it, okay? What's another great one? What about whether or not you should do high intensity interval training versus like zone 2, kind of long, slow distance cardio for longevity and fat loss? That's a pretty big one. People argue about that all the time. People are like, CrossFit's the best thing because it's short and it's fast, and you got other people who are like, I'd like to do boot camps and do sprints, and you should do that. We've got literal doctors online who that's like their whole shtick, is that sprints and everything are the only thing that matter because visceral fat, blah, blah, blah. And then you got other people who are like, no, zone 2, doing long, slow cardio is the best. Which is it? Okay, so let's look at it. In 2024, Wynn et al., this is a study of 1 million people, 1 million people. And a 2023 Journal of, cardiac, something study. Zone 2 style moderate cardio beats high intensity interval training for all-cause mortality reduction. Meaning, if you wanna live longer, just in general, the more low intensity activity you do in general is gonna be better, okay? Your heart's gonna be better, your blood flow is gonna be better, insulin sensitivity is gonna be better, just in general. Cognition is usually a little better because you just oxygenate your brain, but like a lot of things, okay? And Dr. Peter Attia talks about this quite a bit, but there's a caveat. Vigorous exercise, like high intensity interval training, can increase your mortality reduction or decrease mortality by 30%, okay? So let's just say this. You can increase your survivability, your fat loss, your longevity, all of your health goals by like 30% by including, let's say, sprints, mountain bike sprints, hill sprints, doing short rounds, like even 1 minute rounds on a boxing bag or heavy bag, like just pushing yourself really hard, getting really out of breath for a minute, let's just say, and doing that multiple times. Okay, 30% is the advantage. Zone 2, so long, slow cardio, where you can still kind of talk, but you're kind of out of breath, and you can do that for like an hour, and you do that relatively frequently, has like a 60 to 70% reduction in mortality, because it just improves so many factors, because humans are predominantly built to move at slow paces, low impact, slow paces for a lot of time, okay? Now, this is where I differ. I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's both, okay? So I think as a human, you're gonna get the best results if you regularly do long, slow cardio. Zone 2, 45 minutes of, quick walking with a weight vest, riding a bike. You're in that kind of, depending on your age, you're in that like 115 to 140 beats per minute, depending on your age, obviously. And you can do that and hold a conversation relatively. And you do that for 45 minutes, multiple times a week, okay? That's gonna be incredible for you. But you also should be able to sprint for 10 seconds. You should also be able to really get after it for 30 seconds hard and push yourself, because at the end of the day, life requires you to be fit with endurance and fit with speed, okay? You need a dynamic power and the ability to just keep going. You need both of those, all right? So which is it? For fat loss, it all comes down to calories. It comes down to how much you eat. 60% of people who run marathons are overweight, okay? And then you have people who sprint regularly, they tend to be leaner, it seems. At least that's the way it looks. But really what boils down is if you eat well, high protein diet, keep your calories in check, try not to eat a bunch of junk, 80-20 rule, 80% of the time you're eating high protein, lots of fruits and veggies, whole foods, and 20% of the time you're kicking your heels up a little bit but not getting too crazy. You exercise regularly, you sleep, you do your long cardio, and you do sprints. Best of both worlds, okay? Neither one is better for fat loss. It seems long, slow cardio is better for longevity, at least according to the studies, but sprints are really good too because they increase dynamic power, so that ability to react if you stumble and fall. So there's an injury resistance thing there, okay? So they both are great. They're both great. Stop fighting about it. Do both, okay? Just do both. All right, here's another fun one. Carbs are gonna make you fat. I actually saw a lady online the other day. I can't name her because she's aggressive. If I name her, she will start a fight with me. But one of the podcast interviewers asked, is fruit making people fat? And she answered unequivocally, yes. Okay, which made me think she's obviously just clickbaiting and rage baiting everybody. But this is the thing. Carbs do not inherently make you fat because they cannot create fat out of nowhere. Meaning, recently, this is very unfortunate, but recently there was a lady who was a fruitarian. She was a Russian girl. She was living in like Thailand, and all she ate was fruit. She starved to death on fruit. She was a skeleton and starved to death. Now, if fruit were to make you fat and the carbs in the fruit were just somehow to just create fat adiposity on your body, she would have never starved to death, okay? So really what happens is because fruit is so low in calorie, she just simply starved to death from lack of calories and nutrition in general, all right? The carbs could not make her fat out of nowhere. there has to be a certain amount of energy intake to equate to fat gain. Okay, this is why bodybuilders can eat really high protein, natural bodybuilders can eat really high protein and carbs, but they're eating below the amount they need to stay the same size, and they get down to like single digit body fats. People will say, it's because of the steroids. No, I do it with people, regular, normal people all the time as a coach, okay? The carbs are not going to make you fat. What they do is they can help you to be in a fat storage mode, specifically if you're overeating and under moving. Okay? So if you're not moving enough and you're eating more than you need, and many of those calories that are coming in are high glycemic carbs, you're producing insulin. Insulin is a storage hormone. It's going to make it easier, okay? So there's a lot of people out there who carbs are evil, and I get it. For some people, they just lack the ability to process them well, and that's a particular thing for an individual, okay? But carbs cannot make you fat if you're under eating. They just can't. I got down to probably 7% body fat recently for a jiu-jitsu competition, and I was eating 200 to 250 grams of carbohydrates a day, but my calories were down at like 2,300, which for me is like 700 or 800 below what I need. So I still got shredded and had no problem, okay? But when I put my calories back up to like 3,000, I can still eat carbs, but I have to keep the calories in check, okay? So they don't make you fat. They cannot create fat out of nowhere. Fat has to come from somewhere, okay? And it can't just come from nowhere. So let's just look at this. In 2024, a study by Hall et al., head-to-head metabolic ward study, meaning they brought people in, put them in a metabolic ward, which means everything was monitored, all their food was weighed and processed. There was no gaming the system here, okay? The exact same fat loss when protein was matched, okay? Meaning, whether somebody was eating carbs or not eating carbs, when protein was matched, probably calories matched as well, there was no difference, okay? So there was a $10 million NIH study, just killed the carb insulin myth forever, okay? So that was a $10 million study. And what it's proving, it's not proving that, everybody's lying about carbs or people who are in the keto space. There are some real advantages to keto and low carb diets, particularly in just metabolic health, especially if you don't have the ability to process those real well. But what it really comes down to, it just reinforces the fact that total amount of food matters, and then what the food is made up of matters. When you have a high protein diet, calories are matched to where they fit what you need. You can eat carbs based on your particular genetics. Now, some people can't. They just don't process them well. Like I have some clients who are diabetic for many years, and they're lean now, but they have to eat really low carbohydrate. Not because the carbs make them fat, but because they genetically just don't process them well. So their sugar levels go up, which creates other metabolic issues we don't need, okay? So what they do in your blood sugar matters for your genetics, okay? Your genetics will let you know if carbohydrates do not work well with you. Now, if they don't work well with you, that does not mean they don't work well and they are now evil for everyone. This is the problem I have with the carnivore guys. Like I have plenty of friends that do carnivore. But when you get into the fact and you're saying carnivore is the only human diet, you're literally ignoring all of human history where humans have thrived and flourished on every imaginable diet that was just not ultra processed. Okay? So before you go and make big claims, maybe think about human history. a little bit, okay? So carbs are not evil, they're not gonna make you fat. As long as your calories are equated for, or you find a way to eat less in general, most of the time, they're gonna be just fine, okay? Last one. Real quick. And this is one that I think is hilarious. Spot reduction. This is the last one we're gonna talk about, spot reduction. What does that mean? That means when people come to me and they're like, you know what, man, I really gotta get rid of this flabby arm. Okay. What kind of exercises can I do to get rid of my flabby arm? What kind of core exercises do I need to do to get rid of my love handles? Okay. I'm gonna tell you right now, and unequivocally, the only exercise you can do to reduce fat on any part of your body is the exercise of self-control, eating properly, okay? You need a high protein diet with lots of fruits and veg, mostly veg, some fruits, mostly whole foods, not from Whole Foods, the store, but foods that are unprocessed, like minimally processed foods. Because, why? Because in order to lose fat on your body, you have to be in what's called a calorie deficit, okay? I'm not even talking about exercise right now. Literally, I'm talking about eating. You have to be in a calorie deficit. That means you need fewer calories. You have to take in fewer calories so that your body will use up the fat that's stored on your body as energy. Okay, so you create a deficit by eating in a certain way and making sure the amounts are right. And you create an environment where your body uses the stored fat as energy, okay? And then it burns it, okay? Now, your body lays down fat in a particular way, okay? It usually starts somewhere around the middle for every person. That's why you get a tummy or a booty first, and then it moves its way up, okay? It just seems to be the way humans lay down body fat. So, if you want to lose your stomach, okay? That's gonna be the last thing to go. It'll start to go down, but it'll be the last thing to go. But you have to eat in a way that creates a deficit and in a way that creates fullness so that you're not starving. This is why you need something called a whole foods diet that has a high nutrient density and a high satiety per calorie. What does that mean? That means you need to eat lots of animal products because they're very nutritious and nutrient dense, and you get a lot of good minerals, vitamins, minerals, fats, and proteins for fewer calories, okay? So calories are already lower. Then you eat plenty of vegetables and some fruits because they're very filling and they have very low calories, and they do have some good vitamins and minerals, okay? So now calories are still lower, and we are now fuller, okay? Then you keep doing that, and then you add exercise on top as a multiplier, like just a slight multiplier to the effects of the diet, and it also teaches your body or signals to your body to use the foods you're eating properly. Not to store them, but to use them for recovery, okay? So, you cannot spot reduce. I was in Ukraine at one point back in '06, and you would see people running around with extra scarves around their stomach because they thought they could create more heat to burn off their bellies. You watch ladies do thousands of crunches to lower your mommy tummy, and then they go get a 32-ounce Frappuccino from Starbucks afterwards. You see what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna spot reduce. You're not gonna get your tummy to go down and still filling it with a bunch of garbage, right? You have abs. The amount of fat on your body is predominantly controlled by the way you eat, okay? Your exercise helps to sculpt the body, and it also tells the body where to use its energy, the food you're eating, okay? So you can't spot reduce, guys, all right? If you want to get rid of the flabby arms, you need to eat a high protein diet and be in a calorie deficit for an extended amount of time, and you need to train your arms, all right? So build the muscles underneath there. You're not going to burn more fat by doing tricep kickbacks, okay? So hopefully these have helped you a little bit. We're kind of going through some of the myths, and I'll do some more because they're funny and I think it's hilarious. But I really hope that you have enjoyed this episode and that you've learned at least a bit something. The main thing that if you can learn to think about your health and even your faith in some sense from a principles point of view, and try not to get stuck on fads or things that promise something that may sound too good to be true, okay? Somewhere between the extremes, the answer is usually in the middle, okay? So hopefully this has helped you. Just remember, God loves you. He has great plans for your life. You need to be healthy to realize those plans, and we want to help you do it. So if you want, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Hit us back in any comment section, and join my free email course, free emails every week. Check us out on YouTube. We're trying to grow that because it really just helps us to get more exposure. So check us out on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Talk soon.